I find, like, being middle-aged now, the one area of my life I really can't quite understand is my 20s. But I think the wildness, maybe, was to do with several things that happened. AIDS had started when I was about 21, 22, and I'd had a very, very, let's say, varied sex life from the age of about 16 till when it happened. So
you were very promiscuous.
I was very promiscuous, and so my career and the arrival of AIDS happened really on more or less the same day. And so when I look back on my 20s, most of it was lived in with a real sense of terror. I think one of the things people forget about AIDS now, since it's become treatable or manageable, let's say, is that when it first happened, there were people with it on the streets, you know, and it was a most terrible, ravaging disease. And
was there ever a point when you thought you had contracted it?
I was certain I had, because I really couldn't imagine how I wouldn't have. And so I'd embarked on this career, which was in front of the camera. But every day, for example, I wouldn't say a minute went by when some panic button inside me wasn't going off and terrified. And I kept thinking also, you know, through my first film and then it being quite successful, what would happen now if I come out with it? Because, you know, it's very visible disease. And I think, so looking back, I think the whole of my life was really coloured by sheer terror. And terror invaded every area of my life. It dictated how I behaved at work slightly. You know, one's fuse becomes incredibly a weird fuse, you know, because depending on...
Well, I'm intrigued by the idea of you being terrified through what was a very successful, in part of your career in your early 20s. But I just wonder whether part of you was seeking self-destruction in a way.
Oh, I always think it's a marvellous idea that people seek self-destruction, but I never know if that's just, you know, before Freud, no one would have ever understood that
No, but
idea.
you don't need to be Freud to see that extraordinarily destructive things were going on in your life. I mean, the nature of your sexual activity, I mean, you know, forgive me, but you were, at least for a while, I believe, a male prostitute, which, you know, is the most risky of behaviours, surely. And then even when you were a successful actor, you talked about the drugs, the alcohol, sometimes going on stage, as you put it, plastered. I mean, these are behaviours which suggest you were pushing yourself to a point where you knew things were going to go wrong.
I'm not sure, because I came from a tradition of actors. The character actors from the 50s and 60s, right down to Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor, everyone was plastered non-stop. So going on stage drunk was in the 70s or in the 80s quite a normal thing to do. It wasn't really that weird. I mean, it does feel weird to me now because I would never do it now. Sex is sex, whether it's for money or not. I mean, the danger is the same. The self-destruction, I think, is it's too easy, really. I think I came from a very, very solid and straight and conservative background, and also religious. I was brought up in a monastery and indoctrinated with Catholicism. And the escape from it, escaping from that, almost seemed impossible. And I think the only way to escape it was to break the whole thing down and to be extreme.
Rebellion more than anything.
So I don't think, how could you, age 16, it's too easy to say, oh, I wanted to destroy myself, so I had lots of sex. I think I just wanted to be as different as I could from where I came from. I wanted to burn the bridges.